Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. Today we're playing e4 as per usual. My opponent is going to go for a Sicilian. We're going to go for a Mengarini Sicilian, of course, with a3 here, b4 here after knight c6. This is the reason to play the Mengarini, is for this line. To then play c3, kick the knight back, d4. We will pre-move takes if they play d5. They decide to go for the more passive d6, which leaves them with a few developmental problems. I mean, for instance, my bishops have unlimited scope right now. As in, well, it's limited to the size of the board, but the bishops are beautiful. The rook is really open, and I've got a really, really large claim to the center. I am down a pawn, but no one cares. I'm literally Mikhail Tal. We're going to go knight to f3 here. Standard development. I mean, it can't really be a bad move. And then they go for g6. Now, whenever I see g6, and whenever you see g6, you should think, is h4 a good game plan? Is h4, h5 opening this up and trying to do some kind of checkmate after they castle? Is that a good game plan? I feel like no, but maybe. And so we're going to keep our options open. The reason I'm saying no is because generally when you do that, you want to be able to castle queenside, and your king wants to be safe over here. Castling queenside with an open A, B, and the c pawn pushed, not the best idea. You're quite open and very vulnerable with the king there. So instead, we're going to kind of postpone what's going on. Like, for instance, we can just develop the pieces under this pawn structure. I think if I go bishop e3, though, knight f6, and there's potentially a threat of knight g4, and I don't really want to play h3. Even though it might be a good move, because I'm tempted to go like king f1 and play h4, h5. Just leave my king on f1. Not entirely sure. It could be fun, though. It could be really fun. I think what I will do... How do I want to develop this knight? There's an idea to go knight a3 and bring the knight back and like put it on e3. We're going to just go knight a3. It looks like a weird move, but I mean the c3 pawn's here and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah, if bishop e3, I think I would have been not best pleased about the idea of knight to g4. So I'm going to go for this knight back to c2. Very interesting way of developing the knight here. They do castle. You're just tempting me, man. Yes, you're just tempting me. Okay, we're going to go for bishop to g5 here. The idea being that, first of all, we complete the development of all of the minor pieces. This is awesome. They play h6 to kick the bishop. Now, I'm thinking the more pawns they push here, the more excited I am to play king f1 and just launch my my h-pawn, try and tear this open, use the rook on the open file. That could be really fun. Now, do I go back to f4? Is g5 a problem? I don't think so, because then I'm happy to just retreat all the way to d2. And say, look, you've played h6, g5, then h4 is going to be really useful to open the h-file. And, you know, we're going to be able to maybe go queen c1 and form a battery like that. I feel like g5 would be very weakening if bishop f4. The engine probably disagrees. Okay, I could play h4 here and just completely sacrifice the bishop. That's not a good move. If I go here and we see e5, which is the other move to consider, do I want to take? Take. I mean, it looks like I win a pawn back there. But I don't know, because I kind of like the idea of e5 to close this and then like try and keep attacking down this way. Because I'm really tempted about this idea. I love playing h4. It's so fun. So I could straight away just go bishop d2. We're just going to go back to bishop d2. I don't want to give my opponent e5, because even though after takes here, knight takes, bishop takes, we've won back the pawn. I'm just not a fan of how that separates these pawns and how it kind of opens everything up in the center. Now, I probably should castle. If I was good at chess, I would castle. Oh, knight e3 though. Okay, sorry about that. You've probably noticed my clock has gone down quite a lot. My phone just died, so I had to plug it in, and it is now charging while recording my face. In the meantime, my opponent played e6. Now, that kind of makes me feel like I should be taking this, but this knight is also quite pleasant. Now, my opponent also has used 30 seconds to my like 5.5 minutes nearly. Not ideal, but if I take this and then knight takes, I feel like this knight just looks stupid here. We're gonna go for it. We're gonna take this, get the light square bishop, and I don't know, the dark squares seem kind of weak around here. I'm really considering queen c1. I'm just gonna go for queen to c1. We're going to create a battery towards h6. I'm threatening to play h3, remove the knight from the defense of the h6 square, and then simply take that pawn. So the king comes up here. Now. How do I do this? The king steps into this bishop's diagonal. Is h3 a good move? Here? But then I really want to play h4. But then this knight becomes a bit harder to kick. I want to play f3 as well. How do I attack here? We could go h3 here and g4. We're going h4. We're going to just commit to it. I've been talking about it all game. We have like 3 minutes left to my opponent's 9 minutes. It's not looking ideal. They moved this anyway, which is like we just played h3, but we've also got h4 in. Okay. Now, h5. I like h5 because this is a big point of tension. They take with the knight. There's got to be a tactic here. There, that's my tactic, e5. We hold this square. We hold this square, we hold this square. They cannot retreat to this square because the bishop's on it. And this knight is now hanging because our bishop is beautiful. Pins the pawn to the king here. I'm threatening to just take it straight away. The queen cannot come to the defense of it because we just have beautifully developed pieces. Everything is pointing at my opponent's king here. This is, I think you guys know what's coming. This is bellissimo. I don't even speak Italian. I don't know why. We're going to take the knight here. And this is a free piece. Now, it's not quite a completely free piece, but also look, what are you doing about h6? I'm just attacking it 3 times. You can't push here, I just take. So we've got a bishop. We've got a light squared bishop, which is the absolute goat of the position, by the way. For the price of 3 pawns. Now, I feel like we should take this. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely 100%. We take this, because you take here, and you get checkmated, because the king goes back, and I hit you with queen h8, or queen h7. I have my pick of checkmates. So you can't take. Now, if you can't take... Oh, guys. Here. Excellent stuff. The king has to go here. Resignation. What an attack. This bishop is beautiful. Let's analyze that game. Okay, so here we are in the analysis. If we scroll down here and look at the graph, this is kind of what I expected because the opening was, maybe a bit weird, but, stayed within sort of plus or minus 0.5 of 0, which is just negligible advantage for either, really, at my level anyway. Super Grandmasters would disagree, but then again, I'm not a Super Grandmaster. And then, with this whole attack that I was trying to create, yeah, bishop g5 ended up being inaccurate, but it was never worse than minus 1.5. And then the tension builds until, bang, there's a mistake from my opponent, and we just crush. Wow, 92% accuracy, not too bad, 3 inaccuracies. Let's have a look at the game. So I opened with e4, my opponent responded with c5. Let's just quickly open the Masters database. There's not too much point because I played a Mengarini, so that immediately gets rid of like almost every game. We see 500 Master games in the Mengarini though. And then after knight here, b4, takes. Okay, one of my accuracies was b4. That's literally prep. That's like the top move, right? Yeah, look, all the Masters play this. Okay, that's not an inaccuracy. We don't care. b4 takes, c3 here, d4. Now, really nice position. d5 is the best move, but there have been people that play d6, which apparently has scored well for black. I mean, black's never lost in the 4 Master games that this has happened in. But we don't care about those because they happened in 2010, 2012. That was before all of the Mengarini theory that I trailblazed. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so I played knight f3. My opponent responds with g6. The engine likes us to go d5 here, which makes sense because the knight comes here. I'm guessing we can take like this and ruin some pawn structure. But I decided to just develop the bishop, which is inaccurate, but at the same time, I went for this knight developing shenanigans with the knight to e3, which ended up being quite useful. And yeah, here was the low point of the game for me. Still fine, but apparently my opponent had d5. Which I'll turn on the engine, although the engine's being really slow right now. My Wi-Fi is absolutely horrible. Okay, here we go. Now, if we go e5 here, then there's knight e4. And I guess taking that is a big mistake because if knight d2, then apparently f6, and I'm much worse. I don't understand why. I guess I'm a pawn down, and this is kind of like liquidating my band in the center. Bishop e3. takes. Yeah, and then it just wants me to castle and like accept this is happening, and my opponent's just up, you know, multiple pawns. Okay, I guess that makes sense. The bishop was just a bit misplaced there, but it's not at all obvious, I don't think, because after my opponent does this, I went back to d2. They still like e5, which is what I was kind of scared of. If we'd gone bishop to f4 here, then e5, yeah, that wouldn't have been pleasant, as I said, because in the line where we go takes, knight takes. Okay, first of all, they have tactics with knight h5, which removes the bishop, and then they can take my knight, I believe. But even if they took here, we take. I just didn't like this position. These pawns are split. We're not doing very well here. The pawns, it's just a clunky, messy position. It's not flowing. However, we went bishop d2 for the knight here. Took this. Queen c1. The engine actually likes queen c1. One of the top moves. Awesome. Forming the battery towards here. King here. h4. Oh my god. And then h5. I think that was the best engine move. The point being that if you don't play knight takes, you are getting crushed, apparently. Like, I guess I just take here. Oh yeah, because this gets opened, and then I can also play this anyway. Yeah, okay. So you have to take, and then it wants g4, but it also likes e5. And apparently my opponent had king g8 here, which obviously makes a lot of sense because then the knight wouldn't hang. But then they do relinquish this pawn, and this looks very dangerous with the h-file open. Here they only have one move, and it's taking this. And then, like, okay, say I take here, they take with the king. Again, only one move to take with the king, because if they take with the knight, they get sourced with queen h6. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They've got to leave the knight here, and then I've got to go bishop e4. For what reason? Okay, this is way too complicated. My idea was basically just h5, and if you take with the knight, king g8 is hard to play because you let me in here, basically. And after I went like this, takes, we pick up the piece, takes, bishop takes h6, and then bishop g5, that finishing blow, discovered check. Our opponent has two legal moves. Either they go here, and I probably would have taken this, and then taken this, and just been completely winning. And if they'd gone back here, then I'd have taken the rook first, and after the bishop or the king takes, no one really cares. We then pick up the queen, and that would have just been a completely won game. So that idea, as I said, straight away when my opponent went for g6, here was it? Yeah, there we go. When my opponent went for g6, I immediately mentioned, does h4, h5 work as a game plan? Now, it was a bit inaccurate on the way there, but it is far more important to have a good cohesive game plan than play consistently best moves. If you're playing, you know, non-blunders, non-mistakes, and minimizing inaccuracies, but all of the moves you're playing are culminating towards some kind of, you know, general game plan. Like, I'm constantly trying to think about, can I go for h4? Can I, after dropping the bishop back, going the knight here, and then forming a battery towards this to make the h-file weaker? Like, can I get away with going h4, getting at this king and exploiting this pawn? And it just turns out that happened to result in a really pleasant tactic where we could open this up, and then it's really hard for our opponent to play because here they're 2 pawns up, but the evaluation basically gives them zeros if they find king g8, which they weren't able to. And then, yeah, as I said, this idea came to fruition. It worked this time. This is how I like to play chess. Grandmasters will probably disagree, but if you want to have a good time, play h4 whenever you see g6. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this kind of idea. This was a really pleasant move, I think. And yeah, if you did enjoy, like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really helps out the channel. And I will see you in the next one. Auf Wiedersehen.